Welcome everyone. Cannabis news with Joe Klare from May 10th, 2018, presented by the Marijuana Times. Make sure you check us out on marijuanatimes.org. A bunch of great articles by a bunch of great writers on there. And of course, cannabis news can be found on Facebook. Search the Marijuana Times on Facebook. Also search the Marijuana Times on Apple Podcasts for the audio-only version of the show. As of the recording of this show, we're still disabled and banned on YouTube. So we are on Vimeo. That's right, Vimeo.com. It's like video, but with an M. Vimeo.com/Marijuana Times X. If you're already on Vimeo, you know how the search works. Go search the Marijuana Times. Subscribe, like, share the videos. All the stuff you used to do on YouTube. Whether or not it will be restored to YouTube, I don't know. I mean, every day that goes by, obviously, it looks a little less likely. I have seen accounts restored, but I cannot remember off the top of my head any big marijuana accounts that have been restored on YouTube. I think they know what they want to accomplish, and that's what they're accomplishing. They feel that we, and many other shows, promote drug use. I can't speak for any other show, but first of all, if you consider marijuana a drug, that's your prerogative, whatever. I don't have to agree or disagree. But to say that I'm somehow promoting drug use, I don't specifically feel like I'm promoting marijuana use with this show, because I'm not. I would never say to someone, oh, you have to do marijuana. It's an individual choice. That's the point. That's all anybody's ever wanted. That's all any legalization advocate has ever wanted, is for adults to have the choice of whether or not they want to. Whether they do or not, it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not here to say, hey, you need to try marijuana. I'm here to say marijuana needs to be legal. And if you're an adult, you should have the choice to use it or not use it for whatever reason you feel is necessary. Medical, recreational, you have cancer, you just want to go to sleep at night, you have anxiety, you have pain, whatever, it shouldn't matter. So if you say you're promoting marijuana legalization on this show, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't hide my bias whatsoever. I am here to fight for marijuana legalization. But whether or not you do marijuana, I don't care. I mean, I know it may make me sound like an ass, but I don't care. That's the whole point. It shouldn't matter whether someone does or not. We shouldn't say, oh, well, that person's a good person because they use marijuana, or that person's a bad person because they use marijuana. They're neither. The marijuana use has nothing to do with it, whether or not they're a good or a bad person. Anyway, the YouTube saga continues. Will we be back? I don't know. I tend to doubt it, but we'll see. But in the meantime, Vimeo. Search the Marijuana Times on Vimeo. And if you're not on Vimeo, go sign up. It's easy. It's like you sign up with Facebook or Google or your email or whatever. You know how things work. There's like 70 million people on Vimeo. There's a lot going on. It's not as big as YouTube, but YouTube doesn't want us. I mean, people who are like me, or who have marijuana channels who advocate for marijuana legalization, or blaze bongs or whatever they do. YouTube doesn't want you. They don't want us. There's not a whole lot we can do about that. We move on and rebuild elsewhere. And of course, you sharing the videos on Vimeo and Facebook and all that, and Apple Podcasts, giving us ratings and comments. All of that will help. Got a lot of big stories to get to today. Canada, will Canada legalize before the end of the year? And two, if they do, how big could the cannabis market be in Canada? And also Florida. Oh, there's some progress. Medical marijuana in Florida. Yeah, I know. I don't say that much because there hasn't been much. And we'll talk about that. All of that coming up. But first, of course, cannabis news is brought to you by Natureside Cannabis.com. Site is spelled CIDE. Grow safe and poison-free with their organic, all-natural pesticides. You also want to be regulatory compliant in the state that you are growing in. And that means, well, you have to have the right pesticides. You have to use the right pesticides. Natureside is approved in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon for use on cannabis cultivations. Don't use harmful chemicals. Be regulatory compliant. Check out NaturesideCannabis.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News, presented by the Marijuana Times. This first story is from marijuanatimes.org. Will marijuana be legalized in Canada this year? This is a story by yours truly. I began by going through a little bit of the history of legalization in Canada, the road to legalization in Canada, which, believe it or not, began in the fall of 2015 when the Liberal Party came to power, headed by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Obviously, if you remember, one of the major planks of their platform was marijuana legalization. And that was like one of the main things. There was other, problems they had with the Conservative Party that had been in power for 10 years or whatever it was. But one of the main things was marijuana legalization. We're going to legalize marijuana. It was a main platform, a main plank in the platform for the Liberal Party in 2015. So we're talking 2.5 years. Right. Checking my math. In November, or roughly around there, it will be 3 years. In like 5 months, it'll be 3 years since the Liberals took power in Canada. And they're working their way toward it. We've kept you abreast of developments since then, the possible delays, and now there could be even more delays. 3 separate Senate committees in the Canadian Senate are calling for amendments to the legalization bill. The Senate Aboriginal Peoples Committee is calling for a delay of up to a year. They've offered 8 amendments. 8 amendments. They want more consultation. They want to talk about it some more. They want more guarantees for Aboriginal people. Senator Lillian Eva Dick, D-Y-C-K. I don't know. I haven't never spoken. I just see it in print. So I go with my instinct. Indigenous peoples are entitled to a say in how government implements the legalization of cannabis. They've expressed real concerns to us, the potential for increased harmful effects on Indigenous communities on the one hand and the possibility of losing out on economic opportunities on the other. We must address these issues. As I point out, and there's other committees that want delays and they have amendments. One committee wants to shut down home growing. The problem with Canada's system, the reason it's taking so long is because, as I point out in the article, the phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many people. Yes, everybody should have a say. That's great. That's great. And there was comment periods, and they say, the task force says they consulted with people, whatever. There's been plenty of time to make their feelings known about this legalization bill, even if it's just picking up a phone and calling their representative or whatever, this senator who chairs the Aboriginal Peoples Committee. Call them. Call the committee. It's been so long. It's been over 2 years. The task force had the recommendations in late 2016. We're in May of 2018, and it's passed the House. It's working its way slowly through the Senate. July 1st used to be a target date. That's long gone. Now they're talking about maybe fall. Justin Trudeau says it will be done by the end of the year, by the end of summer. I don't know. It doesn't look like it. But everybody has a say every step of the way, and it just bogs down. Yes, everybody should have a say, but then after all that, then you make a decision. If you're going to run your life by government edict, the way they do a lot in Canada, the government's going to regulate and nitpick every single little thing that happens, including some of the provinces are going to have government-run stores selling you garbage weed for high prices, and they're always going to be short. They have no reason to have any kind of good customer service or good quality because they have no competition. They'll be government monopolies. Anyway, they nitpick and analyze every single step, and if marijuana is not legalized in Canada this year, I'm not going to be surprised at all. If Justin Trudeau comes out and says, we tried, we did our best, we just couldn't get it done this year, but 2019 now, homie, I don't think Justin Trudeau says homie, but it'd be cool if he did. Homie, 2019 is our year. Eh? There you go. I Canadianed it up a little bit. This next story is from BusinessInsider.com. Let's say Canada does get around to legalizing marijuana at some point. What could that look like? Well, according to this story, legal marijuana is set to outsell liquor in Canada by 2020. That would be the year 2020, not the vision. A new report from CIBC, one of Canada's largest banks, estimates marijuana will be a $6.5 billion industry by the year 2020. That's more than the $5.1 billion Canadians spent on liquor in 2017, and it's approaching wine sales. CIBC predicts Canadians will buy over 800,000 kilograms, or 1.7 million pounds, of marijuana by 2020. And as I pointed out before, that's nice. That's a nice estimate, but what's it based on? It's based on complete guesses. There's not 40, 50 years of marijuana user data to go back and comb through to get patterns and see how things go. And it's going to become legal. So all these numbers are conjecture, and they could be wild conjecture. They could be way off. They say 6.5 billion. It could be 10 billion. Would anybody be surprised? Wow, 10 billion. People like weed. Well, if you're surprised that people like weed, I don't know what to tell you. You really should be paying attention. The market, they say, will be led by adult use recreational customers, who CIBC predicts will account for 95% of sales, with 5% going to medical marijuana patients. The private sector will be able to generate over $1 billion in earnings on the marijuana sales, with the bulk of that flowing into the production side, companies that cultivate and produce marijuana. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But first, they got to legalize it, as I pointed out. You can, and one step at a time. And the first step is the legal part. Then you can get to the sales part and see how things are going to go. This last story is from sunsentinel.com out of Florida. State outlines rules for medical marijuana licenses. Now, you may be saying, if you followed this story, that, hey, that's good. That's good. That's progress. The state is laying out rules for medical marijuana licenses. Well, here is the problem. If you look at the timeline of what they should have done, is really incredible. Listen to this first paragraph. More than 6 months after the October 3rd deadline to issue new medical marijuana licenses, the Florida Department of Health has released a proposed rule outlining an application process for potential operators in what could be one of the nation's largest cannabis markets. So they had until October 3rd to issue licenses. It's May 10th. So 8 months later, now they're saying, here's the rules outlining the application process for the licenses that they were supposed to start approving back in October. The state thus far has issued licenses to 13 operators. They had until October 3rd to grant 10 new licenses to marijuana operators to meet certain requirements. It's kind of a weird thing in Florida. In 2014, they passed a law for like the CBD only medical marijuana, and they started that industry. And then 2016, the medical marijuana proposal passed the constitutional amendment, which made medical marijuana a much broader category. And they're supposed to be working on regulations for that. But as we followed on this show before, the Department of Health in Florida has not been on the ball. I'm not going to belabor the point. You get the idea just from the timing that I just told you about. The Florida Department of Health has not been on the ball when it comes to medical marijuana. And I've often thought to myself as I'm doing these stories, hey man, maybe I'm being too hard on them. Maybe this is really tough. Maybe I'm just being too hard. But now I'm really thinking about it some more and thinking that licenses should have been handed out. They should have handed out 10 more licenses back in October. And now they're just outlining the application process. Maybe I haven't been hard enough on them. Again, I don't want to belabor the point, and I've said this before, and I'll move on. This is their job. They make regulations. That's what they do. Like you go into a donut shop, and they screw up your donuts, and you're like, hey, man, you make donuts all the time. That's your thing. You're making donuts. You should be good. I didn't come in here and ask you to change the oil in my car. I asked for some donuts, and these donuts suck. That's your job, is donuts. The job of the Florida Department of Health is to issue regulations and oversee regulations, and they're not doing that. So they're not doing their job. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I could belabor that point as well. I'm not a fan of people who don't do their job. Like myself. If you came to this show to find out about the transmission on a 1957 Chevy, you were SOL, as they say. I have no idea. I couldn't even point it out. If you hit a lineup of transmissions, I could not point out the 57 Chevy. But what I will tell you about is cannabis news, and I will give you my opinion on it. And so far, my opinion, the Department of Health in Florida has really dropped the ball. They have sucked. Well, that's it. They've sucked. They suck. I can't get any more frank or blunt than that. That's right. Got to throw in a pun every once in a while. Why not? Keeps things fresh. This has been Cannabis News for May 10th. Make sure you go to makecannabisgreatagain.com to get the gear. Check out marijuanatimes.org. And, of course, find the show now on Vimeo, vimeo.com/marijuanatimes. Search Marijuana Times on Vimeo. Thanks to naturesideCannabis.com for being a proud sponsor of the show. Check out the organic, all-natural pesticides, naturesideCannabis.com. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching and sharing. And we'll see you next time here on Cannabis News.